Just hours ago, WUSA 9 was granted exclusive access to the Fort Cavazos military base, I should say, in Killeen, Texas. Our investigative team went there in search of answers.
Yeah, that's right. We want to know how the Army plans to protect D.C. streets during the Army's 250th birthday celebration and parade, which will feature these really heavy tanks. Our chief investigative reporter, Eric Flack, joins us live from Fort Cavazos, where the military just wrapped up some of their training exercises.
Yeah, and Flack, you watched the same types of battle tanks in action that will roll through the streets of D.C. in just 10 days.
Hey, Leslie and Joe, we are actually live in the middle of that training exercise. It's known as a live fire training exercise. And there's one of those M1 Abrams battle tanks right over our shoulder. These are one of the huge 140,000-pound battle tanks that is going to be rolling through the streets of Washington, D.C., 28 of them to be specific, during that military parade on June 14th. I'm joined by Colonel Stahlkoper. He's the Chief Public Affairs Officer for Fort Cavazos military base here in Texas, which is where we are right now. Colonel, just talk a little bit about, we've been watching over the past hour or so the amount of damage and the speeds with which these huge vehicles can move. They actually have a jet engine underneath the hood of these tanks. How is the Army possibly going to protect the streets of Washington, D.C. and not leave them torn up from vehicles like that?
Yeah, Eric, so one of the first things we did before they went on rail cars, we put brand new track pads on each of the track vehicles. So the Abrams, the Bradleys, and the Paladins, it's about a 2-inch thick piece of hard rubber all the way around, and it's going to absorb the cushion and the impact. And they're also going to be going 3 miles per hour. So that slow speed, brand new track pads, they're going to be driving offset. That's all going to mitigate the issue. And right there, you just heard the 120 millimeter gun on these M1 Abrams. Totally phenomenal firepower.
Because that live round training exercise is going on live right behind us. I want to ask you, we talked a little bit earlier, the Army, though, to be fair, has no real experience with this. You have rolled those tanks off of trucks at NASCAR races. You said this is the first time, at least recently, that those tanks will be rolling down an urban street. Is that correct?
That's correct. But recently, this is going to be the first time in that type of environment. Now, have these tanks also been in other urban environments? Baghdad, for example, over 20 years ago? Yes. Do we also have them on our streets on military bases when they go from a motor pool to a training area? Absolutely. Or if we're talking about Constitution Avenue, I think the last time tanks were on Constitution Avenue was President Truman's inauguration in 1949.
So it has been, there's history for that, although these Abrams weren't there back in the 40s, I think. We want to thank the Army for this exclusive access as we try to tell their story while also getting answers for the people back at home. Leslie and Zoe, we'll kick it back to you unless you have any questions for the Colonel.
Yeah, well, it sounds like they're ready, for what's to come. How long have they been training, Flack? Do we know that for this parade that's set to take place next weekend?
We have time. That's a great question. So Zoe, our anchor, asked, how long have you been in training for this particular parade and rolling these huge armored vehicles onto the streets of Washington, D.C.?
So our soldiers are phenomenal. They're trained, they're proficient, they're lethal. You can give them any task and they will execute it to perfection. So because like right now, they're driving up and down, they're following orders and commands. So they're going to be driving at 3 miles per hour. And to get them over to Washington, D.C., specifically Jessup, Maryland, where they're downloading on the morning of the 9th, every time we go to the National Training Center, Fort Worth, California, or overseas, we practice going onto rail cars. So the whole process of changing out track pads, getting on the rail cars, it is nothing new to us. If anything, it's another set and rep that makes us better, makes us more lethal.
Guys, critics and people who are concerned back home, engineers, former transportation officials, are concerned that the streets could suffer millions of dollars worth of damage. I can tell you from being here in Fort Cavazos, the Army is very confident that will not happen. Guys, back to you.
Hey, Eric, before we let you go, we know how long the parade route is going to be, but in terms of how much time, in terms of minutes, do they know the minute by minute how long these tanks are literally going to be moving at that pace through D.C. streets?
Colonel.
So the entire parade is going to be approximately 90 minutes, a little under. So 6,600 soldiers, 150 vehicles, several dozen aircraft. And to mitigate the concern, 3 miles per hour, it's going to be 4 tanks, so staggered, column of two, then a Paladin, 4 Bradleys. So it's not going to be 28 tanks all at once.
Putting that weight all at once.
Correct. So it's going to be dissipated over a 90-minute time period. And no tanks are going over Memorial Bridge.
And everything that was the key. That was a key. A lot of the structural engineers were worried about the strength of Memorial Bridge. Although there will be a procession, that will not be the tanks.
Correct. Some soldiers are going to march over Memorial Bridge, but all the heavy vehicles from West Potomac Park going to join the soldiers. 90 minutes, no bridges.
Abrams, battle tanks, Stryker, Bradley, fighting vehicles, all here as part of this live training exercise we are a part of right now. The Army says all those tracks on the streets of Washington, D.C. are going to be safe. Guys.
Thank you to you and the Colonel for giving us a sense of what to anticipate and what the best case scenario is. We will see what happens, of course, on June 14th and in the days after as this parade happens. But for now, we'll see you a little bit later and be safe out there.